Good evening, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And BlueDragonFive.
and welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. Do 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 do. All right. How are you, Dragon? We are we are in the crunch time now, Dragon. We are in the eve. We are in the 24-hour period before all will be revealed on the series finale of Bates Motel. It's surreal. It's crazy. It's like we don't even want to talk about it. But Dragon, what we're going to do here is we're going to go all the way back to the past, Samurai Jack. And much like Samurai Jack, we're going to talk about stuff that has happened in the past, specifically the making of the movie that inspired the TV show that Dragon and I love so much. Not that we don't love the movie as well. Of course, we hype up the movie all the time and the Perkinisms and everything like that. But Dragon, this little gem of a movie that came out in 2012, starring Anthony Hopkins, Helen Mirren, Scarlett Johansson, among a host of other great character actors. It really kind of came and went, Dragon. It really kind of came and went in a very strong year for movies overall. I think it got overshadowed by a lot of stuff. I mean, I know me personally, I was really into movies like Moonrise Kingdom at the time, getting really into Wes Anderson work. So this was kind of I remember I went to go see it. I liked it, and I never really had any desire to watch it again. And Dragon, I just as a thesis statement for my personal opinions on this movie, I very much have changed my tune on it. I like it quite a lot. The thing that I criticized it for when I first criticized it still kind of rings true. We'll get into that when we get into cons. But overall, I think this is a very solid, handy little movie, very well put together.
I agree full-heartedly. No, I really agree too. It was great. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie very much, and I agree with you. I think kind of universally the con you have with the film is kind of yeah, it's kind of definitely a weakness of the film. Besides from that, it's yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great to kind of. I think Anthony Hopkins makes for an excellent, compelling Alfred Hitchcock. We'll get into that a little bit more, like the reasons why that is. But yeah, I mean, this seems to be an optimum opportunity to you talk about discuss a film about the man who brought Psycho to the big screen.
And of course, Dragon, oddly enough, there's this whole subplot going on where Hitch in this movie is seeing, Ed Gein, and he's like, having this weird, like, identity crisis of his own, much like Norman Bates. It's kind of fascinating to look back on all these little touchstones on the Bates Motel mythology. We're going to do an afterwards, kind of an epilogue, talking about the classic itself, talking about Psycho and comparing it to Bates Motel. Probably about a week after Bates Motel airs, the final episode. But like I said, Dragon, before we get into any of that, I think it's worth noting and worth taking a look at this 2012 underappreciated gem and really dive into what really worked about it, some of the things that could have been fixed about it, and how it relates back to the man himself, the lovable, enigmatic Norman Bates.
Right.
All right.
So I guess a little background then. So how we got this movie?
Sure.
So interestingly, this film is actually based on a book. So there was a book written by Stephen Rebello, if I'm saying his name right. Stephen Rebello. Stephen Rebello wrote a bestseller. It was It was really famous when it came out. The Making of Psycho. I know quite on my nose, but that's what it was about. He made and it was, the Making of Psycho structured quite like the movie is here. It was about following Alfred Hitchcock versus kind of the direct making of Psycho. It was basically he was approached about believe it or not, there's actually kind of a meta comparison to Bates Motel in the origins of this film. Is that he was the writer was less interested in doing a documentary because a lot of documentarians wanted to make this into a documentary, but he wanted to do it as a biopic again because that's what the book kind of is. It's kind of following Alfred Hitchcock as a character versus kind of following the facts as they are. So what happened is, in terms of how this became a movie, initially A&E which of course airs Bates Motel,
Oh my god.
in 2006, considered doing it as a TV movie or a miniseries. That was the initial plan. So this, as years go on, develops. It gets shopped around. So it gets away from A&E, which would probably be the core root of why we have Bates Motel and A&E that let this slip through their fingers. I'm not saying this is like a huge, like phenomenal success, and we gotta get our hands on it. But maybe the idea is floating around. It's like, well, hey, we like Psycho. We consider doing Hitchcock, so let's get back on the Psycho train again. Years down the line.
No, but this is a big reason, Dragon, why I wanted to examine this film and kind of put it under our nerdy lens microscope, if you will, and kind of break down the fabric of it and how it relates to Bates Motel. Because as you just very much illuminated for us, it does have a history that very much cross-pollinates with the origins of Bates Motel.
Yeah, remember this movie came out a year before Bates Motel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, again, the core origins was being developed in 2006. It's been in the air. So let's see. This film was directed by a first-time director, Sasha Gervasi.
Okay.
It's the project eventually. I don't know if he was involved from the very beginning, but eventually it's like the directors shift again as they're finding networks. They're finding networks to studios as go on to develop from TV series to TV movie to actual feature length movie. So let's see. So basically, what drew Gervasi into it, what drew him into it was the new information, stuff from the book that he had no idea about in the making of Psycho. Because we all know Psycho. We all every filmmaker under the sun collectively knows something about Psycho.
Sure.
And what he didn't know is something that's very is revealed in the book. It was very difficult making Psycho, and the main thing, the two elements that really drew him to it was in making Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock had to make it out of pocket. He had to pay for it himself. It was a huge gamble. That story mixed with the fact, learning about the relationship between Hitch and Alma, those two factors really kind of intrigued him into the film. Essentially, what I kind of realized on the rewatch is that the relationship between Hitch and Alma is interestingly kind of like the speculated relationship between Bill Finger and Bob Kane.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Bear in mind, and we're going to soon this year, reportedly in May, we're supposed to get a Bill Finger documentary on.
That's what you were telling me.
Which I'm very much looking forward to. If I'm going to use that free trial membership on Hulu at some point.
But for me, Dragon, it's interesting because I think it, what this film does in terms of the structure of it is it absolutely illuminates what an influence Hitchcock's wife had on everything and how powerful of a woman she was. But at the same time, it does this great sort of psychological breakdown of Hitchcock that I feel was kind of setting some of the stones for what Bates Motel would do later on. In Hitchcock's case, it's Hitch kind of hallucinating with, with Ed Gein. And, I feel like it's really interesting that sort of stuff is what I caught on the rewatch that, well, I still think the affair stuff in the movie, especially when not directly involving Anthony Hopkins, does drag a little bit, is the weak point of the movie. I think the storyline itself, I feel, has more reason to be there within the fabric of the narrative, Dragon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, by the way, the reason I use the Finger Kane comparison is because, it's the idea that Alma directly, she did not want to be part of the limelight. She allowed Alfred Hitchcock to take the limelight, but still she feels a divide between her husband and her because of that choice she made, which a lot of people speculated, mainly me, I'll admit, but I'm saying, I imagine other people have speculated that there had to be a conversation at some point between, and that's what I really hope to be illuminated at some point, between Bob Kane and Bill Finger about one of them taking the credit and the other one, because Bill Finger never fought for credit. You got to wonder why. There had to be some sort of conversation of, okay, you are the kind of the main creator of Batman because the deal that was made to, in making the comic, and he paid Bill Finger on the table. I don't want to just turn this into that. I'm just bringing up for the fact of, kind of a one gets the spotlight, one doesn't. You got to imagine how the other one feels about that. So that's kind of the crux of what I'm getting at there. So they, so in essence, what they made here, last thing I'm going to say is that they made a film focusing on Hitchcock versus making Psycho itself. So basically, it's a what if the trailer we got for Psycho is actually continuing to follow Alfred Hitchcock talking about the movie. That's essentially what this movie is. It's like, okay, what if we followed this man going on telling us about the movie?
Oh god, that would be pretty fun.
Anyway, so speaking of Hitchcock, because I mean his name's all over this thing. Let's let's talk about the great man himself. Let's talk about the director, definitively like the director in Hollywood. I mean, for the longest time, he's like one of the go-to. Like books are so many books are written about him, so you can't read a film book without hearing Hitchcock brought up.
Yeah, Hitchcock was one of those guys where before I even knew any of the movies he had directed, I knew of the man just through like caricatures and the silhouette of him, and like just kind of the pop culture zeitgeist. Just kind of like the funny guy with the funny silhouette, like the funny fat man. But really, Dragon, the first Hitchcock film I remember, Psycho, I always knew of, but it took me until high school to rent Psycho. But I vividly remember my dad in about, I want to say maybe seventh grade, my dad took me to see a double feature of Rear Window and Vertigo. And let me tell you, Dragon, that was my gateway drug to Hitchcock. Like, that was it. That did it right there. And, Hitchcock has a wide variety. He has a wide filmography. I think a lot of Hitchcock movies are better than others. I think the ones that we typically like hold up and remember are the ones we should hold up and remember. And I don't necessarily think there's a lot of Hitchcock films that are kind of like obscure and buried that, that are necessarily really master classes in their own right. Like, that's the thing with Hitchcock. He would make a lot of B-grade material, but at the same time, he'd also like levitate to the top and fully wow audiences with his A-grade material at the same time. And the B-grade material really kind of financed the A-grade material in a lot of ways.
It's kind of funny in a way. When you put it like that, Tiki, it sounds almost like kind of Kevin Smith is kind of the basically Hitchcock was the far more successful, memorable Kevin Smith of his day.
No, I mean, you're joking about that, but yeah, I could totally see that being accurate, Dragon, because, keep in mind, Hitch, I mean, this guy, like, one of the things that I
see, I don't mean this, I'm not disparaging because I'm just pointing at the similarity, that's all.
Sure. That's fine. Anyways, but yeah, Dragon, I definitely think that, that's my experience with the man's filmography. How about you? What made you discover Hitchcock? What was your gateway drug?
Honestly, it was. I mean, it sound like everyone's story, but yeah, it was. It was Psycho. Just like my grandfather, he's kind of a fan of kind of the comedies and kind of your classic movies, which include the monster movies as well as some of the horror films. And he kind of pointed me to Psycho, and basically he just loved the idea of the kind of this. He really just loved Norman, kind of this idea of Norman Bates, of just kind of this the big reveal of Norman Bates being the killer. It fascinated him, and he always just kind of pointed that to me as like one of the great kind of, the crazy mother we thought was existing, killing people in the movie. Of course,
right? Like, I could imagine him like explaining the twist to you, like at a very young age.
Well, no, he didn't explain; just kind of showed it to me. And then afterwards, we laugh it up talking about it.
Okay, for sure.
So just talking about Hitchcock in general, though, after that, just kind of learning about the guy more like years later down the line, Psycho, seen that way back when. Hitchcock as the director, I think he's ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time in every way. Every film for him was made as if he were making Citizen Kane. Even the films that again didn't pan out to be as successful as Psycho. Again, the point is he made every film like it were Citizen Kane. He put his best into it. I mean, he came up with these inventive visuals. He made. He made the most. He made an opportunity of every choice, and he made it work. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He made the opposite choice that any rational director would have made, and he made it work. He took kind of a gamble with every decision. He just played the opposite. Like, how is this? That's kind of the Citizen Kane comparison of like, Orson Welles. Came up with these super inventive shots that they were super inventive of the time. Like no one would ever think of them. And Hitchcock's kind of doing, okay, what's the style of directing now? Well, I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to make it work, and he did.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like he's chasing his own trademarks that he's developing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. In a way, it's like
ultimate hipster director in that way.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Again, it's kind of like, what if you had like a man who made a film, he tried to reinvent the wheel like Citizen Kane did way back when with every film. He's like, I mean, do things differently. He's never tried to repeat himself, even though he had.
Yeah, Dragon, I don't know though. I do want to say, as someone who studied a lot of his deeper cuts, and like I think you're giving too much credit to some of those deeper cuts, man. Like some of them are not very watchable for me.
Well, no, I'm saying less with the improv. I'm saying the attempt, though. I'm saying in shooting them.
Oh yeah, and shooting them, absolutely.
I'm not
yeah,
saying like
yeah.
I'm not saying he's going. I'm not saying every film is Citizen Kane. I'm saying he's filming it like Citizen Kane. He's trying to direct it to the best of his ability and kind of come up with these new inventive things.
Right.
Like
Okay.
Again, not everyone's going to be a huge success, but everyone's filming
saying,
like it's going to be.
Like in terms of Hitchcock and his actual filmography,
Well,
that is one of the things I'll kind of draw the line on when talking to people. Is like, yeah, obviously Hitchcock had some really, really stellar movies. He had some clunkers too, if you go back and watch them.
Yeah, even some of our favorite directors have had their kind of their bad.
Sure.
Yeah, they're human. Everyone's human. I mean, of course, like Steven Spielberg. Of course, he's had kind of some.
Oh, Steven Spielberg's a famous example. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's Ford Coppola even.
Again, it's a walrus.
Yeah. Personally, I'd say Lincoln, but it's.
Oh, Lincoln is a freaking masterpiece compared to Warhorse. Shut your mouth.
And Lincoln is boring as heck.
And Warhorse isn't? Anyway.
I haven't seen Warhorse, all right? I'm just saying Lincoln, for example.
All right.
Anyway, of course, everyone's gonna just kind of jump on the man's throat saying, no, these are far worse. But let's just move on. So, so Psycho was the point. So interesting, the point about Hitchcock was, Psycho was the point where he was, and we see this in the film. Psycho was the point in Hitchcock's career, and this is why I love rewatching the films, at this point where he was challenged. He was really proving his worth as a director. He was going outside his directing rut. Again, he could have gotten out on a high note. At that point, North by Northwest came out. That's a huge hit. That was a huge film. Everyone likes it. It's one of his greats. Mm-hmm. He could have just kind of could have kind of gone out on a high. He could have retired as a director.
I like the thing about North by Northwest, though, in the context of his filmography, is just kind of put some historical context behind this. Is North by Northwest was it was a terrific crowd pleasing movie, Dragon, but it was also a formula. It was a formula that Hitch had developed over the years, and really he had gotten tired of making. So that's exactly the attitude that you have Anthony Hopkins in the beginning of this film. Is he's truly just like, while everyone around him is just like, oh my god, North by Northwest, wow, it's a jaw dropper, amazing finale, and Hopkins is basically just like, well, yes, he's being very modest about it. It's like, yeah, well, I kind of stretched that idea to the to the furthest it could go.
Yeah, and again, it's like, okay, people are praising the success of more of the same, which is kind of like,
and then they're wanting him on James Bond, Dragon. I love that idea.
Yeah, that's great. So again, it's like, hey, okay, you've done this great thing for us. Just do more of the same, and it's kind of like poking the clown, just saying, hey, do that funny thing again.
You know what it reminds me of in terms of to throw out like a recent example, like a modern example. It reminds me of talented like indie directors who get thrown into the Hollywood system, like they get thrown into the belly of the Marvel.
You mean quite literally Marvel, or do you just mean in general?
I mean, there's a giant belly of Marvel in the Marvel Studios somewhere that these directors like Scott Derrickson and James Gunn and Edgar Wright's like looking around somewhere, like Edgar Wright's like the rogue trying to free everyone. All right, but no, all I'm trying to say is that like Hitch and his whole storyline in this movie is like, I do not want to be typecast as one sort of director. I want to do something that's going to shock you so much that there's never going to be a film I put out that you're going to look at the same way again after this film I want to do.
Again, I just love that it's like at this point, while that's happening, it's like he's at this point where he's got a lot of fuel left in him to reinvent the genre. Mm-hmm. He never intended to reinvent. He intended to do something good, just prove that he had fuel left. He had a story to make that was going to be different than the other ones. He didn't expect to be kind of a huge thing. He just wanted to be a good movie that people were going to enjoy. Again, kind of the craft, the essence of a filmmaker, and he didn't give up in the pursuit of that one more left in him. Left in him, which of course influences God knows which led it to be one of the great historic films. One of the which in essence, after Psycho, I mean, the whole rest of them were definitely building the track. But again, he's the first iconic one of the first iconic director personas of this day. Before he was the first iconic director persona before Spielberg and Nolan and everything. He's just kind of a guy known for a style and kind of has that huge name. You know, he was everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like that. He was that director you knew the name. Like bear in mind, Orson Welles debatably was like one of those guys. But bear in mind,
Orson Welles was kind of like one of those weird fringe people where everyone knew he was like kind of crazy, but also brilliant at the same time. So he would kind of, he was almost like a borderline Howard Hughes type eccentric.
Exactly. It's like Orson Welles. Remember, Orson Welles is a child prodigy.
Right.
He was a prodigy who then knocked it out of the ballpark. Like he's like kind of knocking everything else out of the ballpark.
Politics involved with Orson Welles.
What it boils down to is like he makes a very hugely successful film. I won't get into the rest of Orson Welles' story, but the point is like he's then known for various other things, like being an actor and being kind of a Hollywood personality.
Right.
And with Hitchcock, he had something similar, but a little bit more tied to directing. Of like, okay, we've seen a director because he cameos in his films, but also he does like he's the television series. He's known as like that for himself, and that's kind of like where we're at now with directors like Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg, especially. And saying like when you say Spielberg, you kind of the guy. It's familiar. That point is, I'm saying that's kind of the level of. That's why he's kind of like in the book. When you think director, one of the instant names you think of is probably Hitchcock.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The point is Hitchcock, very well known. So I'm speaking of the name. Let's get into what this film's about. So aside from just it's about Alfred Hitchcock, I'll be more specific. So here's generally how the plot goes for this film. So we follow the famous master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, as he takes a huge public risk, making a film almost no one thought would work. We follow the production as well as the relationship between Hitchcock and his longtime collaborator and wife, Alma Revel. Tension mounds both on and off the set by this gamble of a picture. This pushes Hitch to his most creative and resourceful with the help of Alma. And it's up to the couple to pull the production together by the picture's release date.
All right. So let's dive more into not just the man himself, Dragon, but specifically the Anthony Hopkins portrayal. How good was Hopkins here? My God.
Oh, he's perfect. So there was another. Tiki, it's so interesting that I want to say a year before this, if not the same year, there was another Hitchcock film released. It was on HBO. It was like
I remember this. I remember. Yeah.
Yes. God, do you remember do you remember the name?
I not for the life of me.
I'm pretty sure it's called The Girl. I'm like 90% certain it's called The Girl because
I know what it. Yeah, it was about like the scandal, right?
Yeah, so here's what it boils down to, folks. The film was called, I'm pretty sure, The Girl, and it starred Toby
Kebbell?
Kebbell, yeah. Right, Toby Kebbell. No, wait, Toby Jones. It's Toby. Okay, the one who played Armin Zola. You look it up, Dickie.
Toby Jones plays Armin Zola.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Okay.
So Toby, see, you have me thinking Toby Kebbell. That's the one who played Dr. Doom in the most recent.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's what I'm saying. I keep anyway, Toby Jones. Thank you. So Toby Jones played Hitchcock. No, he did a good job, but he was playing kind of a let's just say, kind of an unlikable version of Hitchcock.
Oh, poor Toby Jones.
Here's the thing. I want to make it clear.
That's like the second time that's happened to Toby Jones, though.
Really, what happened was the first one?
The first one was Capote.
All right, yeah.
and then Toby Jones did probably what I've heard a more kind of gritty and realistic version of the Capote story and got way overshadowed by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Exactly. You're right. It is the second time, yeah.
It's the exact same situation. Let's give some love to Toby Jones.
That's the thing, because Toby Jones, he was excellent. I haven't seen his take on Capote, but I have seen his take on Hitchcock, and it's a very serviceable Hitchcock, but it's Hitchcock's in a more negative light in that film, because it's basically looking at we get a glimpse at it here, and we get like a lighter version of it. And I think it's faithful. I'm saying this is like we'll get to that in a second, but the Toby Jones version is it's basically about him and Tippi Hedren and kind of the relationship they had, basically where Hitchcock would obsess with his Hitchcock blondes, which we do get that is definitely a plot line in this film. And we saw the kind of the negative turns that took with, of course, the famous like bird kind of trying to gouge out her eye on set.
Hmm.
The birds attacking her, really traumatizing her on set. That's really the crux of that film. So again, that's in a negative context. But here, though, and believe me, I would honestly, Toby Jones would make an excellent penguin when I think about it.
Yeah.
Seriously, tell me he wouldn't make an excellent penguin. Anyway, so back to this guy. So again, as great as Toby Jones was, again, nothing compares. Anthony Hopkins is the perfect Hitchcock. He is absolutely. He showcases the difference between those two. Is that Anthony Hopkins showcases the human side of Hitchcock. And that's what the goal and the intention of this film is. They want to show the funny and polite side of Hitchcock. That's what this version.
Well, I feel like they show it's very much kind of a caricaturized vision of Hitchcock that still wants to work in all the kind of a warts and all depiction of him at the same time.
Yeah.
Where when we first start the film and he's narrating and all that, and we've got the goofy music and all that, I think Hitch is meant to be a larger than life character throughout this piece. I think this is a piece where the world is kind of like metaphorically supposed to revolve around this guy to a certain extent.
And that's in the beginning of the film. That's kind of what he's combating. He's combating that he's looked at as kind of this exaggeration. He's looking at this. What was the word you used to describe it, Tiki?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Basically, well, he like the master suspense, the persona he's taken on. He's kind of this presentation of himself.
Yeah. But I feel like it's interesting because the movie itself is kind of like an examination and a breakdown, Dragon, because as the movie starts and as the narrative goes on, we see what is Hopkins. Hopkins is just himself, like this. He's been pulled in to be just this caricature of this crazy murder mystery.
Yeah, that's the caricature. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, I really like how this movie plays with that. It's so much more than just the average biopic of just seeing like, okay, here's how they made Psycho. All right. And Dragon, honestly, that's sort of how I viewed the movie when I first saw it. And I wasn't necessarily reading into the subtext of what was going on with, like, let's say the Ed Gein parts. And that's why I think this discussion is going to be really rewarding, especially to Bates Motel fans, because I think especially stuff like the Ed Gein chapters in this film really illuminate to me just what they were trying to do with that kind of storyline.
Yeah. I mean, again, I love how Hopkins, he just captures what's iconic about Hitch, but he also adds this great dimension to it. I just love this. This take on him. It is, to me, the kind of the best aspect of the film, quite honestly. Just his take on Hitchcock. You get kind of this caricature of what Tiki's been saying. It's this character kind of reflecting on himself, what he is, and then we get to see kind of an insight how this basically, in a way, how he was perceived influenced why he picked Psycho. When you think about it, the way he's perceived as kind of the man who's kind of like the lord of the macabre in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's kind of like, he's gravitating towards, well, what film would be unexpected yet everyone would kind of kick themselves thinking, why didn't I think he would do that? Which would be Psycho. In a way, it's quite brilliant that he picked Psycho. Again, no one would imagine, because they're imagining him doing like these suspenseful things, but never a horror movie.
Yeah, and this is it's a really fascinating time also just in the context of the thrillers and horror movie genre, because keep in mind the boom of Universal monster movies at a time was dead. Like, we were doing like very cheesy sequels, if anything else, like really trying to draw that out, but there was really and there were a few kind of like gothic directors on the scene at the time, but nothing really hit home in.
Like James Whale would be like one of the big hits of the time. The guy did Frankenstein.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that nothing had the same sort of cultural impact of the time. There was nothing there to kind of fill the void and like shock people the same way that the antiquities of the Universal monster movies would shock audiences of decades earlier. And I feel like that is a big thing that Hitchcock wanted to rev up again. He really wanted to put the bite back in the modern day horror film.
In a way, he was kind of with the Spielberg comparison again, I guess. He's just kind of basically, again, Hitch being ahead of his time. He's trying to make the Jaws of the 60s.
Yeah, and also, Dragon, I think just in the way that Hitch approached this movie, there's there's legitimately some grindhouse qualities to it as well.
Well, you got to remember, this movie was everyone, and this is something you see in the film. Everyone's writing it off as a B movie, and they're just figuring, okay, Hitch has kind of lost his mind, but he's making it on his own. We can't tell him no because he's just this famous director. So he's making a B movie just because basically they're almost looking at like a midlife crisis.
Right, right.
And yeah, he's proving everyone wrong by sticking to his guns. And it was just, well, why is he being so particular? Why is he's overlooking the footage so much? Why is he demanding so much? And again, what I love about the points about it before we move on, because again, we kind of talked about why, but it kind of speaks for itself. And how Hopkins, he's just perfect for it. Again, has that great voice for it. The good evening, and they like,
he delivers the good evening so well. Yeah.
Again, he has the right voice for Hitchcock. It sounds, I know it's a little different. It looks a little different, but again, it's like the performance is so strong, and so again, the makeup looks amazing.
He doesn't necessarily look exactly like the
but he
silhouette.
Looks convincing. He looks enough to be the caricature, which is what we all know.
And also, I feel like he got the mannerisms of Hitchcock down really well, which is always something I'm looking for.
I'm very impressed they captured the size too. They gave him like everything that indicates the silhouette.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is that when I'm looking at a performance dragon, I look, maybe even more so in terms of like, does this person visually look like the person? I want to see, does this person visually act like the person? Exactly. That's why I think there's certain performances that are just really compelling for me, where you don't necessarily see it coming. You know what I mean? Where it's a certain actor who, let's say, might, like Robin Williams doing horror is a perfect example. Like Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo is the sort of like visceral kind of like way unexpected acting.
It's what the actor doesn't say, and that's what comes through especially. Right. Basically, you could have, as great as we love as much as we love to hear, Anthony Hopkins as Hitchcock speak and kind of go on and on. It's like reading the phone book. As much as we love to hear that, again, it's the fact that when he's sitting in a room, he's just kind of he's reading psych, and he's enacting, he's kind of investigating. You get to see what the man does alone. It's telling story all by itself without dialogue.
But do you want to talk at all about, or should we wait to get into just an Ed Gein centric?
We figure we could wait on Ed Gein.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
But the last thing I'll mention about it is, again, I love that the film does showcase kind of that side of Hitchcock that a lot of people, again, we've all seen him as the caricatured master of suspense. But and actually, what we see here, we do get to see kind of this side of Hitchcock. We get to see a humanistic side of him. He's very nice to Janet Leigh. They have a really nice dynamic. He's very polite, and he is a little bit of a prankster. Again, he's realized that they didn't show this. And Anthony Perkins loves telling the story where I've mentioned this briefly. Janet Leigh's being all method about like the sandwich, asking about, well, how should I?
Yeah, right.
And he's calling everyone over just to kind of make her feel self-conscious. Like Hitchcock was like that. He's fun on the set, and this is like the era where you can be really fun on the set. That's why he makes everyone take the oath about
fun, but he also adds just enough discomfort to the set to really get what he needs out of the directors.
Exactly,
which is why he was like kind of this method madman of the time, where he definitely had a reputation. But I think the people that were able to work with him and really connect with him on a level, and really get an understanding for the type of man he was, folks like Janet Leigh, I think were definitely the reasons why we see Janet Leigh as kind of like the idyllic Hitchcock girl, is because of the relationship that developed between Hitch and Leigh that might not have developed between, let's say, some of the more troubled ones of the past.
Yeah, and exactly. And of course, he made everyone take an oath on stage, and it's just like that's back in old Hollywood. You can get away with those fun things. And he's been snarky to the censor boards. Again, these are like fun qualities of it. So the guy's been around. The guy knows how things work. The guy can kind of mouth off a little and get away with it.
Sure.
Okay, so I guess let's. Well, Tiki, you take us through. We just listed out all the characters and advantages. So Tiki, you pick who we should talk about next.
I pick who we should talk about. Okay.
Think carefully. There's a lot of pressure on you.
Oh boy.
Don't screw it up.
I personally think we should go through some of the minor characters and work back around to Alma at the end.
Okay, folks, if you don't like it, it's his fault.
Okay, so how do you want to go from there, Dragon? Do you want to talk about, I don't know.
Should we talk about
Janet.
Would you like to?
Let's talk about Janet. Damn it, Janet.
No, we love Janet Leigh. We love more than Janet Leigh. Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, actually, this is a good place. Let's kind of break down these three characters.
The film is extremely well cast. Let's say that right for all of these guys in advance. I think the film is extremely
sure, and I don't think we're going to have too much time to go over these characters. I think at the end of the day, they're definitely, with the exception of maybe Janet Leigh herself, kind of like, look, Dragon. Let's just face it right now. James Darcy as
as Anthony Perkins.
As Perkins, yes. James Darcy as Perkins.
I get so many nice things to say about Perkins.
It is so amazing. I just wish Perkins had more screen time.
I know, and that's again, we'll get to that in cons, but
that's the only thing really. But Perkins, I mean, perfectly cast. I love the way that Hitch kind of gets under his skin and makes him think about his character in a really kind of deep and kind of messed up sort of way. There's definitely a tension between Hitch and himself.
Well, I'll hint at it now. The running con through all of these characters, as great as they are, is simply that they are too great. They're so great, I want to see films following almost each and every one of them. They're really that good. It's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
With Perkins, with of course the lovely James Darcy, we've had a love affair with on Agent Carter as Jarvis, as Edwin Jarvis. Again, I remember this. I put it together at some point. Like, oh my God, he's in this movie. Oh my God, it's like Jarvis is in Hitchcock. It's amazing. But it's so great. I love Darcy in the role, and honestly, he's of course second to Highmore always. I think he's perfect for Perkins. Honestly, I would love to watch anything with him as Anthony Perkins. I think he looks the part, he acts the part. He's just easy.
Or just like a Bates Motel 2.
That's what I'm saying. Well, speaking of sequels, quite seriously though, speaking of sequels, now this is something that this is the reason I bring up the con, because Anthony Perkins, you gotta remember, he's heavily involved in the sequels. He's in all the sequels, and he actually directed one of them, and he's always been like a producer, and he's always been heavily involved in the sequels. So he kind of succeeded Alfred Hitchcock as the kind of purveyor of the franchise.
Right, yeah, and I can see that. And the Psycho franchise, Dragon, believe it or not, is one of those sleeper franchises that I'd like to look in on.
Well, I was going to tell you this, but I might as well just plug it on air as well. There is a documentary out there I recommend everyone watch. If you want to know like kind of what happens after Psycho, it covers Psycho a little bit, kind of the stuff you don't really hear talked about too much in Psycho, which makes it kind of worth watching. It's called The Psycho Legacy.
Is it on Netflix?
It is not on Netflix. I know you can buy the physical DVD of it because Shout Factory did it. So I can't. I just encourage everyone to look. All right, just look. I believe it's available on YouTube for rental purchase.
You took my dreams of watching a free documentary tonight, and you crushed it, Dragon.
And that's why I didn't say free. I would have opened with free or on Netflix.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, point is, Psycho Legacy takes you through all the other three sequels as well as the original, and of course, it's well done. It's informative, and it kind of
Psycho seems like the dark horse of the horror franchises, where it doesn't really have that many, and you wouldn't expect them to be good. But
fourth one is good. I do enjoy the fourth one.
I mean, from what I've heard, at least like all of them have at least something going for them.
They do.
Okay.
Again, the fourth one was our precursor to the Bates Motel. It gives you a glimpse of basically that was what really intrigued me when Bates Motel came out. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen a film kind of like that where we see young Norman and Norma Bates. That was kind of my thing going into Bates Motel,
right? Because
that was Henry Thomas played Norman Bates. Elliot from E.T. He played.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh wow! Okay.
It was good.
We're gonna have to seek this out sometime, Dragon. I think we're going to have to do like a Bates Motel After Hours podcast or something like that.
And of course, well, there's a show, but I don't think we should watch that. There was another Bates Motel show. Anyway, let's make sure we cover these. So again, aside from being well cast, of course, Janet Leigh, Scarlett Johansson, and she looks and makes sense for the role because the reason she makes sense because Janet Leigh was kind of like one of the bombshells of the time and kind of when they go to kind of beautiful actresses, and who we have in the modern day for that, Scarlett Johansson, of course.
Yeah, of course, she's a natural fit for sure, and not just that, but she has some really warm and endearing moments with Hitch, in spite of Hitch really taking her to the breaking point sometimes, which I'll get into.
Yeah, it's a very accurate portrayal. It's a very pleasant friendship she develops with Hitch. I think I love how
Uh-huh.
they, of course, they rewrite some history here because just while he's on screen, I should say Perkins came up with the candy corn idea. That was not that
Right,
was
right, yeah.
as sweet as it is in the movie. It did not happen. How she drove him home and he got the candy corn. I looked into it, but still, I mean, hey, Perkins gave for Perkins.
But
Uh,
that's what I'm saying, though. I think Perkins is a little underwritten here. Like, they
yeah,
could have given Perkins a bit like that.
what's so great about Johansson's lead, by the way, is the fact that, again, I love that she's kind of playing against what kind of Hollywood has turned Scarlett Johansson into, much like I imagine Jan Lee was turned into after Psycho. You know, she's kind of that, you know, she's the beautiful girl, and that's kind of all she'll ever be. Where no, we have levels to her. She's much more than just
Sure,
kind of like, you know,
sure.
she wasn't just a nude scene. That, you know, as in what Jan Lee was, she was much more than that. She was kind of a good actress. She has to shoulder a lot of importance. You have to believe you're going to invest in this character before she's kind of gone out of there.
Right.
Let's see.
And then Vera Miles.
Yes, Vera Miles. So again, you got Jessica Biel, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
I'm sorry, Dragon. Just obligatory joke about a character named Vera.
Yeah, she actually is really interesting. She has a big role in
No,
the
no, no.
sequel.
You're right. You're right. She's interesting. She's very interesting. I just want to make that joke, and then because it's Vera. It's Vera Dragon.
It ain't a formiga.
All right.
I need the farm, darn it! I need the farm.
Hashtag I need the farm.
Anyway, so no, seriously, Vera. Believe it or not, Vera Miles, the Lila character, she's actually she's the one of the bad guys in Psycho 2.
Oh, really? Okay.
She's the big bad guy in Psycho 2. Quite honestly.
Yeah, she. I mean, she definitely has an interesting role here. She's kind of more the seasoned veteran when it comes to working with Hitch, and she's. It's not. It's interesting, Dragon,
And see,
because
she voices that Tippi Hedren thing I was talking about in the girl.
sure,
That's
sure,
kind of what she represents in this movie. But I like it has like a nice softened resolution in this film, though.
they do, which I feel might be a little bit too Hollywood for the actual real life resolution, but
But I like that it wasn't like everything wasn't cool, but it was like a really kind of nice. It was like kind of a somber like acceptance on their end, which I thought was like, you know, they're both acknowledging yes, our paths went differently. You know, Hitchcock somewhat apologizing to her, but also somewhat because the idea was that Vera Miles represented that she was when Hitchcock took interest in you, it was a great thing, but it's also
right.
almost like a mob thing where like he takes great interest in you, but you tick him off, you're gonna really
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a cult. Like, hey, you're our special person now.
yeah, 'cause, yeah, like there was Grace Kelly who kind of found her way into royalty, and that was where Hitch bet the farm, and they found the next up and comer, which was Vera Miles, who then got pregnant. Which again, understandably, it just happens. You can't do anything about that. But again, Hitchy bet the farm on yet another young actress is going to be like his Hitchcock blonde, which of course is a really interesting device in this film. And again, she highlights those controversial qualities in Hitchcock, where he was so controlling, but at the point where he had like too much kind of Orwellian control almost.
Right, absolutely,
That's kind of a
absolutely.
double Orwell reference, by the way. It's kind of a reference to Orson Welles as well as 1984. And I'm proud of myself for that one, but
You should be. You should be.
but again, I do like that we kind of I like that she brings up a little bit of skepticism and she kind of highlights why Hitchcock, as much as we the audience love him, you know, he's not perfect. You gotta remember he is doing that voyeur thing, which I want to say I don't know if I think Hitchcock did that in real life at times, which is why he was attracted to the source material. I'm not entirely certain about that, so don't quote me. But you know, he remember in this film they did. I think they framed it for dramatic effect, but you know, it has the same hole like Norman has in the wall later
Oh,
on.
right, right, yeah.
So a certain amount of that is dramatic effect, but you know,
Which is
still.
interesting, Dragon, because as we're going through this film, I think that is a very key point
I
to
mean,
pick
Rear
up
Window,
on.
for example, Hitchcock does have voyeuristic tendencies, as we saw with Rear Window.
Right, right. I'm just saying, like, as the movie goes along, as I was saying, we get more and more kind of drawn into
Yeah.
this sort of like Hitchcock's like suspense film playing out in his own mind, which is a really interesting motif to play with.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. So again, those kind of I didn't let anything last on Perkins. You get short of Highmore, like the best Norman Bates you could get. Again, would love to see more of them. Again, basically, it's Highmore, James Darcy, and Nestor Carpenter. Those are my three kind of go tos for Perkins.
So not Perkins himself.
Oh, he's dead, Tiki. Let's not.
Okay, okay.
So
All right, let's refer to
yeah.
some of these people on the poster.
Well,
that we haven't gotten to yet.
I'm sorry. Last thing I got to mention about Perkins is that
I'm sorry.
My last gripe with it is again is crazy is I really would have liked to see the divide between. I don't know how much of what Darcy's bringing is Perkins versus him doing a Norman Bates impression. I don't know.
I hear you, man. I hear you. It's kind of frustrating
because we never saw him as Norman Bates. We saw him. Well, we don't know. We saw him presenting as what could have been Perkins or Norman Bates.
We saw him kind of just show up a couple times, and he's really just kind of a background character through a lot of the movie, which is.
Yeah, we have some really great names cast in this film as pivotal characters in the film. We don't get to do much. Like, for example, we're not going to really devote any time to him, but Saul Bass, who, of course, he has a famous story. So you know the Saul Bass story, don't you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, Saul Bass played one of my favorite. Well, not one of my favorites. A really good actor. I really have a lot of reverence for. Wally Langham, Wallace Langham plays him. I've mentioned him to you before. He's done voice work. He's been on CSI. He's a good actor. He plays Saul Bass. He doesn't get to say a word.
Right.
He's the story. Yeah, for the folks out there, he's the storyboard guy. He's the guy who boarded the shower scene. He's the board artist, and let's not get into the controversy about the shower scene.
It's just like I don't know, and we're really. Darn it, Dragon! I was trying, but we're kind of going into negative territory.
All right. Let's just
quicker than I was expecting us.
No. We'll hold. We'll reserve any for. We'll just put a pin. We'll save it.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so the rest of our characters.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's go back to that poster, and I believe most of the other people we want to talk about are on here, right?
Okay. Well, very far left. We have Peggy Robertson, right there, played by Toni Collette.
Yes.
Oh, I believe if I'm right, she got the role because she went from Australia to where they were shooting, and basically to audition. So they gave her the role because oh my god, she has so much dedication. Let's just give it to her.
I could see that Toni Collette in every role she does just feels super motivated. Like her role in Little Miss Sunshine is like the house mover.
She's just overall for all you can really say is I think she's a good assistant. She kind of I buy her as okay, well she could definitely be just someone kind of basically she's my comparison is she's like a lieutenant for Hitchcock, kind of a lieutenant of Hitchcock's army.
Right, she's kind of been in it for a while and she knows kind of the seedy underbelly of the Hitchcock enterprise and she knows how to navigate it.
Yeah, she's the one who carries out all of Hitchcock's orders. She's the one who calls her minions, as Hitchcock calls them. No, not the yellow ones, but she calls her
the yellow ones.
But can you imagine though if they were just all dressed like Hitchcock characters? Some of them were just like birds. Some were just
oh God,
be hilarious, and they all have theme music following them. Dun, 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 dun,
I don't approve.
Anyway, the point is,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm a cynic when it comes to minions.
Yeah. Anyway, so with Peggy though, I do like that she is just she's this experienced character. She's like the lieutenant giving orders. She has her minions buy every copy of the book. That's pretty impressive.
You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of. Oh God, what's the actress? Crap. The
give me something here.
Plays a similar role to this character in Steve Jobs.
Oh right, Kate Winslet's character.
Kate Winslet, yes, exactly.
Right.
Kate Winslet is another one of those, she's in the inside, kind of the belly of the beast of this corporation. She knows the dark secrets, and it's her job to make it to be as helpful as possible. So it's always admirable to have characters like that.
Of course, when Hitchcock goes down, she's the one to kind of pick him up.
Sure.
And again, I like this, but again, I'm not dwelling on the negative. I'm just saying, I like that she and Anthony Perkins were the ones to kind of find him there. I did like that. Yeah, Perkins and Hitchcock, they had a nice rapport, which we could have seen more of. The point is, Perkins was there. He was there.
All right.
Okay, so then let's go down the line. Of course, we went through Jessica Biel, so let's talk about Danny Huston. By the way, Danny Huston, in case anyone's just forgotten, as much as you might see him pop up here and there, he's also Hollywood royalty, which I think gives him a nice pedigree for this film. He's John Huston's son.
That's all well and good, Dragon, but look, We're talking about
I'm talking about the acting, not what his character and story does.
Okay, but let's talk about what his character and story does, can we?
Okay, but let's not curse the darkness too much.
Okay, but basically, I feel like if this guy, like, look, he serves his purpose in the movie, and I see the purpose he serves, and especially like it's a little bit more palatable for me now that I've rewatched the film and I kind of see the whole murder mystery thriller element going on, like the whole like breaking the fourth wall to a little bit of an extent. Having said that, Dragon, there's at least too many scenes of this guy going off with Alma when we should be focused on the Psycho set, and I want to get back to the Psycho set, and I'm just wondering, like, like James Darcy and Scarlett Johansson and all these other people are getting, like, their scenes are getting cut because we have to have this freaking romantic love triangle going on.
But again, you gotta remember, film's about Hitchcock and not Psycho.
I understand the film's about Hitchcock and not Psycho. All I'm saying is that the scenes with Wit and Alma aren't about Hitchcock or Psycho. They're just about like adding to this this love triangle, which, by the way, Dragon, from everything I've been able to research and look up, never happened.
Well, yeah, I thought we were gonna say most of this Whitfield talk for cons, but
well, okay, yeah, fair enough. I just can't talk about the character without kind of having a dislike for him. But you want to defend him a little bit?
Well, yeah. Again, Danny Houston, but as an actor, I've enjoyed Danny Houston quite a great deal. Yeah, he's appeared in a lot of things I like, and he's also a few things I was not crazy about, like X-Men Origins Wolverine. But again, even in that, he's trying. He's giving a good performance. Again, he played a good like young Brian Cox from X-Men too. He played a good young one. I could see that. Again, I like just the casting and the level of the Hollywood royalties are like a nice little fun thing. And it's kind of funny thing, kind of escapes your mind sometimes. Like, oh yeah, right, he is John Huston's son. It's awesome.
Right.
But again, it's good casting in that. Just speaking to how can we compare Hitch's story to kind of that of like a mirror mystery or like Psycho. It's the idea that he plays into Hitch's discomfort with kind of attractive men. And you do kind of see that in the movies. Like he is the Sam Loomis of this film. That's essentially what he is.
Okay. I like that you're putting that pin down in it because we all know how much we hate Sam Loomis.
So now in two ways, I'm believe it or not, I'm actually referencing Sam was in both films, both the film and the series. Series for bits we're going to get to later on, but in the film,
series because he's a cheating bastard.
Well, yes, and bear in mind in the movie he's not cheating. It was in the '60s, marriage like unmarried affairs were frowned upon. So there was a kind of an age discrepancy there. Well, not like a decade discrepancy there.
All right.
But my point is like there was also rumors like on set like Hitch wasn't crazy about the actor either. The one just he had like kind of a discomfort around because he was like an attractive guy.
Oh, I could see that. Right.
And I think what kind of Danny Houston plays into is kind of the Marion Sam affair going on in a way. It's kind of like the romantic kind of Hitchcock couple that kind of our story is kind of like uncomfortable with, and we know bad things going to befall them in a way. That's kind of why Hitchcock. In that regard, basically it's like kind of the successful, better looking version of Hitchcock, which threatens Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying at all? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And also, in real life, there's a few fact about which Whitfield, before we move forward, he's a friend of the family in real life, and they don't say this doesn't happen. He's a friend of the family, which they know him, and they met. He actually he was a producer. I believe he was a producer. At the very least, he was a writing assistant on Strangers on a Train.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And he gave Hitchcock's daughter, Pat Hitchcock, her first role in the theater.
Nice.
So it's kind of that's how they knew each other. And that's how they kind of got into a working rhythm. So again, Whitfield Cook is kind of involved in Hitchcock Glenn. Okay, let's see it. Then we got Ed Gein.
Ed Gein, yeah, and of course Ed Gein relates directly to the man himself. Dragon, this was definitely the most interesting part of the movie, and at certain points I was a little bit skeptical about it. I was a little bit like not really sure how much this is sticking to landing. Like, I know what it's trying to do. I'm just not sure if the execution is on point. But I gotta say, watching this movie twice in preparation for this podcast, While obviously it doesn't do the same things as good as Bates Motel does, I think
Yeah, it's not intentionally trying to.
Of course, and Bates Motel kind of set the standard for this kind of storytelling. But I do think it is very fascinating that we have kind of the Norman Bates, the real life Norman Bates,
Yes.
talking with Hitchcock.
Essentially, Norman Bates is a combination, much like in Silence of the Lambs of Buffalo Bill. Oddly, it's strange, but it's like Ed Gein with the looks of Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, yes,
That's essentially that's Norman Bates. It's basically Ed Gein's story, but with Ted Bundy's appearance and like how he lured victims in.
So with that in mind, I just think it's very interesting that you have this character, and who knows, maybe Hitchcock would have filmed an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode about Ed Gein, and then just gotten the idea of Ed Gein in his mind, and just that was something that was just swimming around in there, and maybe not presented, of course, in as literal of a way as it is in this movie, but I could definitely see, like, I really like it as kind of a manifestation of inspiration behind wanting to tell Norman's story.
Yeah, it is just kind of this great fourth wall creation of kind of a Norman made plot relevant. It's relevant to the creation of. Basically, we have like a plot relevant Norman who is relevant to how Norman gets created in Psycho. Again, it's kind of an origin to Norman Bates, as we see play out in Hitchcock's mind. The ideas are falling into place of how the film will turn out. So again, we have the origin of Psycho through kind of this device in the film.
Sure.
Again, it also has like the great duality, which Hitchcock loves to do. He loves stuff about duality.
Absolutely.
And again, it's kind of a great way to voice kind of Hitchcock's frustrations and his paranoia through a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's kind of the macabre, because kind of like being buddy with
right. Yeah, it's like, well, no one else here is going to listen to me, so I might as well talk to you.
It's technically, I mean, Robert Bloch technically did it first, but Hitchcock is adapting Ed Gein's story to the big screen, so it makes sense that he'd be in conversation with Ed Gein a lot in his mind. He's getting to know the man, because remember, that's what we see in the film. He predicates kind of selling the film on actual. It's a great way of kind of, bear in mind, in the grand scheme, it's not a smart idea, but he shows all of his investors all the real life stuff, which would influence the film's tone, like all the Ed Gein crime scene photos.
Oh, that's one way to market a movie.
Tried the finger sandwiches. They're made with real fingers.
Oh, man.
That sort of stuff. So it's like, again, like Hitchcock, that was just him being the Alfred Hitchcock Presents version of himself, but with far darker material than he would,
of course.
be given on this. Again, it's like Hitchcock, again, he was like playing a prank that backfired big time. In that regard. But again, it's like him, again, he's telling Ed Gein's story.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dragon, I know we have some minor characters to go over. Unfortunately, my images are limited, so I think I'm going to just stick to the poster for now. But who do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Lew Wasserman. So Lew Wasserman is also, there's another Steve Jobs reference here. The actor played Andy Hertzfeldt, plays Lew Wasserman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a compelling character there.
Very svelte. Hertzfeldt here, by the way. I'm just in the actor that portrays him. He's rather svelte in this one, because at first I thought he was like the actor from Saving Mr. Banks, but he's not. He's
right.
Remember, he reminded you of DeGrady from Did he remind you of Dick DeGrady from Saving Mr. Banks at all?
I can see it. Yeah,
with the glasses and everything. I was like, oh yeah, it looks like him. I looked it up. No, it's not. It's Andy Hertzfeldt.
Now we're just gonna have like the extended universe of like these Hollywood biopics.
I know, and well, I'll tell you later. So anyway, so yeah, Lew Wasserman. Lew Wasserman is very interesting. Of course, there's now, I believe, on Amazon Prime, so you should be able to watch this. I'm pretty sure Lew Wasserman has his own documentary, by the way, so I think you should be able to learn about him if you wanted to. I'm saying, assuming that it is about Lew Wasserman, which I'm pretty sure it is, but it could be another Hollywood agent. Anyway, point is Lew Wasserman. He's a very supportive agent. He plays it like the way I describe his character here is like he plays it like an experienced gambler when he makes these deals with the studio boss. He's just he's playing like, okay, Mr. Hitchcock wants to do this film, and he knows this film's a gamble, and later on, and he's prepared for all the outcomes, prepared for both. If it's successful, he's also prepared. Like the instant things are looking bad, he says, "Well, look, Hitch, I did a deal with Jimmy with." with Jimmy Stewart with it with
Yeah,
his TV
yeah.
thing. We made out good on that. So again, he's prepared for both the good and bad and just kind of the nature of any agent. I'm prepared if my client sucks.
Right, right.
So again, it's like kind of the gambling kind of portrayal of Wasserman. He's very supportive, and he's always like, but he's still prepared for any outcome. He's prepared to turn on this guy on a dime.
Yeah, again, I kind of wish there was a little bit more there with him and Hitch, but you're right. He does a very serviceable job with what he's given, and like you said earlier, this is very much like kind of a character study and not an ensemble piece for the most part.
Yeah, real quick, just because I brought him up. So Barney Balaban, if I'm saying the character's name right, the point is the boss of Paramount. He represents the studio system's pressure. He's kind of our quote unquote antagonist of the film.
He's the evil man.
Of course, not really evil. He's just doing his job. I know. But you see what I mean? Again, I like that he's kind of in art. To Hitchcock, he's the antagonist because he's putting pressure on him. Again, he just represents kind of studio person. Like, show me some footage, Hitch. Show me some footage.
Right.
And again, like he's trying to undermine him. And again, because he knows, like, it is Hitchcock's money, but still, it's their good studio name at risk there. Yeah, it's like, Hitchcock wants Final Cut, and this guy's like, he wants in on every aspect. And again, Hitchcock hates having press and everyone on the set.
Of course, because one of the big things that we get into with the movie is, how secretive he wanted the whole set.
Yep, it's because again, you gotta remember Hitchcock, and he got away with it too. It's amazing. He had pretty much one of the biggest spoilers, short of of course, Citizen Kane. Now everyone knows the spoiler of Citizen Kane. The spoiler of one of the biggest spoilers of all time, one of the biggest reveals in film history. He kept it locked down. No one knew it, and believe it or not, even when the film came out, people were like Hitchcock asked everyone in the theater not to. I don't know how it got out. The point is that he asked everyone to not spoil the ending, and no one did.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm saying collectively, as far as I'm sure, maybe like there might have been one person, but I'm just saying from what people have said, like no one spoiled it. Everyone was really gracious to him. They didn't spoil it.
Sure.
Like they just told their friends, "Oh, you got to see this movie." They didn't tell them the ending, so it was a day of courtesy. So let's see. So what's been the studio system? So let's get to look at the Sherlock. Sherlock, I guess would be not Sherlock Holmes, but Sherlock, played by the wonderful Kurtwood Smith.
Okay, right.
Kurtwood Smith. Anyway. So he's great. He's a great, kind of straightforward counter to Hitch. To Hitch's levity, I thought. He's very straightforward, very like kind of all business. He's about you cannot show this, Hitch.
He's kind of like the Roy Disney to Hitch's Walt Disney in a way.
In a way, yes. I mean, he's just kind of the reality. He's the by the book guy versus Hitch is kind of the levity and it brings levity and creativity to him in every scene. Like Hitch is like making fun of him. It's like kind of someone's trying to not intentionally trying to squash out creativity, but telling him, okay, here are the guidelines.
Right.
Because the organization he's part of, now we know it as essentially the MPAA, but before it was like the MPP. The MPPC, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, it was like they really had a fancy title and they wanted to really flaunt it. That's essentially what it was. The MPAA was just kind of like, okay, basically, the MPAA just then kind of was over like the rating for the movie. The final rating is like the censor board of like what standards of broadcast has to go through now.
Right.
So, because now basically you get a rating, you stick to the confines of the rating versus like and the studios. You don't really go through like kind of a censor board for films these days. Anyway, so of course, in general, I think we always, in many films, we like Kurtwood Smith.
Yeah, he's a fun presence. He kind of pops up. He has more screen time than other characters, so that's nice.
He does get one of my favorite moments in the film, but again, I just love the idea of this character who's just like so counterintuitive to Hitch. And he's not being a bad guy, but he's definitely not. He's not keen on Hitchcock making light of these things. He takes himself very seriously.
Oh.
I mean, there's like these two guys who are opposites, and they have to be in each other's lives, and they have to coexist.
Right.
it's a fun little arc he has where just kind of like he thinks like these two guys like, okay, it's the convention of okay, there's the serious studio guy and like the director saying, oh man, you're squashing my creativity, poo on you.
Yeah, and like I said, I definitely think he gets a little more character than, let's say,
Yeah.
someone like Anthony Perkins, who's kind of just like lurking around in the background the whole time, unfortunately.
Well, to be fair, it's kind of what Norman Bates does best. He can't.
Yeah, I know, but
I know. Anyway, let's see who else are we not? I think we might have one more. No. We got real quick. We got well, of course, we had the big one at the end. We got
right,
Joe
sure,
Stefano.
Sure.
There's Joe Stefano, real quick. Just want to highlight this. Joe Stefano, I would say, is the most underutilized character. We'll get into that in cons why, but let's just say Ralph Macchio. He's inspired casting because I never in a million years would have thought Ralph Macchio was Joe Stefano. But then I saw in the movie, like I watched interviews of Joe Stefano. Oh my god, yeah, I could totally buy him as a young Joe Stefano. He looks like him. He sounds like him. Everything.
Right.
I wanted more of him. Darn, I'll get into why when we get to cons. But the point is, Joe Stefano, he was good when we saw him. Didn't do much else. He was in one scene, quite literally, maybe in the background somewhere, but he was there. So let's talk about the myth, the legend, the Mirren, Helen Mirren's character, otherwise known as Amareville.
Yeah, so I think this is a very good story for her, a very good arc. It's a wonderful kind of like coming out of her shell. And there are certain things about it that I don't necessarily even blame her for it. I blame the character that she's attached to, and I blame the writing for it. But
don't blame the character. Blame the writing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, fine. I'm blaming the writing. But having said that, Dragon, there is a lot of admirable qualities about Helen Mirren in this film. Just how patient she is with Hitch, and how determined she is to finish the movie, and how understanding she is. And at the same time, how she isn't just going to put up with Hitch and just like be, kind of like roll over to his every whim. So it is a very much kind of a teeter-totter back and forth sort of like classic like 1950s like husband and wife dynamic. But it works really well. And at the end of the film, Dragon, that moment that you stole from me so much that I wanted,
Oh, I would have killed you for that moment.
I just think everything comes full circle in that moment, and it's wonderful. And I think this film actually does a very, very good service to Alma for highlighting her just as much as they do. Because I feel like in some ways, even though this might not be the movie I want it to be, it's kind of more Alma's movie than Hitchcock's movie in a lot of respects. She really is the star here.
I really do like that quality. I love how integral she is. And again, with her dynamic with Hitch, I mean, first of all, the actors have great chemistry together. But with their dynamic, she's supportive yet in the shadows. Her choice again. So it's not like they address smartly. They don't have it like okay, she's mad at him for reasons. No, she's mad. She's not mad at him. She's kind of frustrated with him, but she understands it. She's not she's not harping on like kind of anything illogical. She's just she's living with her choice.
Like husband and wife stuff, right? Where it's just like
they're trying. Basically, there are a lot of there's some passive aggressiveness, but it's not like over the top. It's like okay, well, they're trying to help each other, so like they're gardening together, and
of course they're doing like the another classic husband and wife thing of like they're voicing what's getting on each other's nerves, but they're doing it through trying to make a joke out of it.
Mm-hmm. As you said, I'm far too corpulent to be seen.
Right, exactly.
Get out of the bathtub, you'll prune. You're starting to prune. So there you get it.
I'm sorry, like I love the image of Hopkins in the bathtub. He just looks so spot on.
Again, that makeup looks amazing.
I know, it really does. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's again like how you're right. They just feel like such a great married couple and such a realistic married couple, and that of course it's like they're not. You get a sense like at no point in the film are they going to split necessarily, but you understand that they're going to. They reach a point where they're at odds with each other.
Yeah, and that point I really do feel like is kind of you feel it on Hitch's end. You know what I mean? You feel it because of all the stuff that Hitch is going through at the time and just how much he's put into everything. To suddenly have this thing that may or may not even result in anything, but it's a burden on his mind that he doesn't need.
Yeah, because I like that what their arc boils down to is that they need each other. They want to be with each other. I like it's kind of
Yeah,
that it's that
totally,
positive
totally.
thing. They don't want something that's going to make the other one miserable. They want to be together, but they don't realize they can just do that in much easier capacities. They got to get. They're both wrapped up in their distractions right now, and they both would like each other to be with them during these distractions.
Well
They come
said.
together with their visions. Like basically, this big game that does threaten a large portion of their happiness, which is kind of living together at that nice house they have.
All right.
Okay, so that's kind of we've gone through all our characters again. Just how Mary brings wonderful subtlety to Alma.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dude. Pros and cons. Let's use this for pros and cons.
Aye. Okay, so of course the casting, the period design of everything is those again. Casting is probably one of the strongest things going for this film, and everything looks exactly like the period.
I'm gonna say a pro that's a bit unconventional, but I like how this movie's only about an hour and a half long. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
think
cool.
it really needs to be any longer. I think it really it's very economic in its storytelling.
Mhm. Again, I love the narrative with the Hitchcock kind of stylistic touches and
Yes,
parallels.
yes.
Basically, how it parallels the events in Psycho, or kind of like tonally a lot of stuff that happens in Psycho.
And of course, I really like some of the behind the scenes stuff in Psycho when we do get to get it.
Right.
But even so, I think that the character arcs through at least Alma and Hitch are very satisfying towards the end.
The opening with the crap, I'm not trying to think. All right, can't talk about that yet.
Yeah,
So
you can't
the
talk
elf.
about it.
Right, sorry, I got it written down. Okay, the Elfman score. Now I got a funny. Now here, well, not funny story. I got an important story. So Danny Elfman did the score to this film, and I thought it was a really good score. And what's really great about this is that Elfman, he bear in mind this film was essentially this film's kind of like I want to say, God, I forget if it was a Lionsgate release or not, but the point is this film was like one of those indie films kind of
Wait,
released.
wait, wait. Never mind. I want to say it was Paramount.
Well, I mean, well, we know the studio in the movie was Paramount. I'm not sure if it was.
I don't know.
I
I'm sorry.
The point is, the film is one of those films that was kind of like a wasn't like a wide release. I don't get a sense this
Oh, I
film's a
think I
wide
know what it
release.
was. It was Fox Searchlight.
Okay, there you go. The
Yeah.
point is, this film was released, and it was like one of those. I want to say like a limited release jobs, which kind of
Uh-huh.
infuriate me sometimes. The point is, it was essentially it's a high quality indie film. Let's be honest. It's a high quality indie film, and in doing that, in doing that, of course, you got some of the a budget cutback. The point is you're working like you're not going to have like the thing like a huge studio blockbuster would have. So Danny Elfman, he probably kind of took a bit of a pay cut himself on this one, but he did because he actually he paid out of pocket to get some of the orchestra he needed for this one because he his idol was Bernard Herrmann. He did this, he desperately wanted to do this film because Bernard Herrmann was his idol growing up and everything. The score to Psycho, it's always a huge deal for him. That's why he did the score. And I think he did an excellent job.
Yeah, I think he does a good job kind of taking those familiar compositions of like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and then weaving them into his own sort of Danny Elfman like
Yeah,
tapestry, if you will.
I like that it doesn't sound in the important parts of the film. It doesn't sound Elfman-esque. It sounds like in something Hitchcock-esque. It sounds again. It's in that Herman-esque. It's like really. It feels more like something else versus kind of Elfman's distinct style.
Sure, sure.
And of course, we reach basically Elfman's score really makes my moments when we get to him. Like 2 out of 3 of my moments are really accentuated by Elfman's score. And I don't think really they'd be necessarily the same without that Elfman score.
All right. Any cons then?
Oh, well, real quick with the, I love the day-to-day life and the old Hollywood atmosphere. Of course, we all love the old Hollywood atmosphere. Like they go to the gates and they have the dogs, Hitchcock's famous dogs.
Right. That's always fun. Yeah.
Of course, the Ed Gein device, which we mentioned. Uh, kind of the making of Psycho without Psycho in the forefront. That's a clever device. We get through kind of the Ed Gein stuff. Spotlighting, the battles and kind of the dealing with the studio, like all those scenes. Again, when we talk about well, maybe we'll release the picture in France, in
Right.
Paris.
Right.
They had the days. It was the whole toilet debacle. Again, I respect the choice of having the film center around Hitchcock and Alma versus kind of more of the making of Psycho. It was a gutsy choice, and I respect it.
And let's
And
transition to that.
yes, okay, so so cons. So I guess starting with that then.
I just think I respect the choice as well. I just think that Wit, the character of Wit, just has
Yeah.
way too much screen time.
Uh,
And the film just drags when we see him go on these endless excursions with Alma out to the beach, and it really is like kind of dragging. The sucky thing about it is that like anyone who knows their salt about Hitchcock history knows that this is preposterous and knows that Alma is not going to leave Hitch, and she's always going to stand by Hitch. She was one of the most one of the most loyal wives in Hollywood. So I don't know. That to me is like I guess it's more the real life context that kind of
well,
bothers me about it.
speaking of real life context, let me point out a few of the ones that these are some of the deviations and artistic liberties they took in the film.
Okay.
So here's a kind of a brief list. So they did not big one in terms of the plot, and I'll give some of these a pass because we needed to kind of add some kind of dramatic tension to the film. They did not mortgage the house.
Yeah, you
Hitchcock,
see, and that right there is
yeah.
kind of like the big, like the big.
That's kind of like the Saving Mr. Banks, like
Exactly.
she signed over. Like some of these you need to make the movie a little bit. That's what I'm saying. Some of these you need, and at least they still remain true enough to the idea. So, I mean, to be fair, I mean Hitchcock, he did like forego his pay based on the success of films. I mean, he did go out of pocket essentially for them, and he funded the film himself. So, I mean, that's true. They didn't necessarily mortgage the house. They needed a device to the extent that show to the audience, okay, there's a danger here.
Okay, right.
So to that one, I'd give a pass personally. But Alma did not direct, so that's a biggie. So that's Alma did not. The way she directed in the film, I figured she just kind of she's worked so intrinsically in the film.
I figured she supervised and she was there a lot around set, and I think what they pulled off at the end was less so kind of what actually happened and more so kind of like a visual representation of all the tools of the trade that she'd learned.
Yeah, honestly, I figured she ghost directed on the film. I don't think that'd be much of a kind of a ghost directing thing if a Hitchcock still directed, fitting the moniker. But again, it's a liberty. He was sick, so I mean, he's kind of honestly, it's just it's a little falsehood, but again, it's still. It's consistent with our story and what we need to have.
It doesn't bother me, really.
She's shouldering. I'm saying it doesn't. I'm just saying for anyone who does bother. She's shouldering the responsibility, so it's fine. She continuing the stuff with Hitchcock. So it's good for her character. Let's see. The knife scene did not happen.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Without going into it, the knife scene did not happen as artistic liberty, but again, it was a fun artistic liberty. We'll get specifics. Now, again, as Tiki mentioned, just to kind of talk about it for a moment here, the marriage in danger and the almost affair never complete work of fiction.
Yeah, so and that's what really pisses me off about it, Dragon. That's what really gets under my skin.
Here's how I'm coming down on is that you're right. That is the biggest problem of the film, the whole marriage subplot here. The marriage in danger. Here's what's really the problem with it, Tiki. Well, an additional problem is that it's an almost affair. I say it's an almost affair because it's what they're trying to do is it's a creative affair. Like they're not exactly like having a marital affair. That's why it's like too vague. It's not even like a straight up affair. So it's kind of weird. It's
right. It's kind of awkward more than anything else.
Honestly, it's going to sound weird, but here's what they actually are going for. Too. They're going for it's a creative affair versus a sexual one. It's
I get that's what they're going for. That was not lost on me. I still don't like it.
That's what I'm saying. I think that in itself is kind of a weird broad concept. That's a little too broad of an idea. I mean, it's interesting, but I don't think it's like we don't want to tell that sort of experimental story in this right now. This whole it's a creative affair of hey, we're going to you collaborate with me because my husband doesn't have time to collaborate with me.
Right. That's definitely where the film lost me.
And the fact that we devote so much time to that's the biggest flaw.
That's definitely look, if it was a small part of the movie just added to give a little tension, I'd forgive it. But it takes up a good, I want to say maybe 15% of the movie, 20% of the movie.
And of course, you get a real Sam Loomisy bit from Bates Motel with Whitfield in the end there, because another big problem I have with all the true flaws I have with the film are with the subplot, because we then get to the resolution, which first of all there's barely a resolution, which really does bug me. The fact that we don't really acknowledge it because again we're dancing around it so much. It's because it's a vague
Yeah, it's
concept.
not even well written drama. That's really the shame of
See,
it.
it's fine. It's like if they're doing that, that's one thing. That's like I can't judge it because there's no resolution. I don't have an ending to compare things to. I don't
Right.
because in the end, we build to it excellently with the two actors, with Helen Mirren and with Anthony Hopkins. We build to that point where, like, full support, we mortgage the house. Great scene, good acting, but again, okay, they've said how they feel, and okay, then the following scene, they're moving past it. But I need the scene in the middle for what is said. Okay, so what is the reaction to that?
All right, all right.
But you see, I mean, the Sam Loomis bit is like when he's having an affair at the house, even though it wasn't an affair they were having, yet she feels offended. But more so the fact that the Sam Loomis part is when he says, "You won't tell Hitch, will you?" Because he doesn't want to
Right.
threaten the project. He wants Hitch's approval, which you feel bad for almost. But again, it's like a real Sam. That's a Whitfield's most unlikable moment. And again, it's like too vague a concept they're playing with. I commend. It's an interesting concept, but you don't want to experiment with it during this film.
All right, Dragon, let's go on to some of our favorite scenes, unless you have any more
Well,
cons.
yeah, real quick, just what I've been kind of seeding throughout the whole thing here is that again, missed opportunity by not focusing on more of our psycho players
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I'm sorry.
With
Go
the
ahead.
X-Men class, the two ones to highlight, of course, I think the two biggest missed opportunities of all of these guys. Like, as much as I love to see a whole bunch of these other characters get spotlight, Perkins and Stefano were the biggest ones who were shafted. Perkins, because of course we got James Darcy playing it, and of course we'd love to see more what he would have done. And there are a lot of fun stories. Perkins has a lot of fun stories from the set. Like again, the candy corn origin, but not only that, just the whole. Again, he, if I'm right, right. Oh, here's a story for you. When they were shooting the scene where I remember Marty, not Marty, Arbogast, when they're trying to think the actor's name. When Arbogast is
Yeah.
checking the registry, Norman's like, the way he's like kind of looking at him, when he's turning the head in that famous Perkins-esque way.
Yeah.
That was initially that was boarded in a completely different way, and Perkins came up with how to shoot that.
Nice.
That was Perkins' idea. I mean, again, he had ideas, and eventually, again, he directs like Psycho 3. So things are building. Like, Perkins, in a way,
was a nutshurk young lad.
he was in a way Hitchcock's protege. Transcendentally, and Stefano and Hitchcock work really close to each other because a bit we get with Stefano is he mentions he's in therapy with his mother. Well, no, he's not in therapy. He's in therapy and he talks about his mother, which is what got him the job. In the movie, we turn that into a joke, a one-note joke, which is funny, but again, in retrospect,
a little bit insulting when you're thinking about the actual guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because again, there's so many fun stories of Stefano and Hitchcock kind of going around the room writing the movie together.
Sure.
Again, Stefano, there was so much faith, and again, Stefano was a really interesting character. If you ever watch the on YouTube, just the making of Psycho, it's a little not documentary. It's like an hour and a half, like making up feature. It's good. You get tons of Joe Stefano. The guy's a wealth of stories. He's really good. Again, Maggio in the role might have been really cool. So again, those two biggest missed opportunity, and also Pat Hitchcock, who was in Psycho. She played Marion's friend at the bank wherever she worked, the real estate office. She doesn't appear in the film. They don't address the child of the Hitchcocks, which is kind of weird.
Right.
And no cameo scene for oh wait, no, we have one at the very end. Never mind. Strike that last one.
Okay. So Dragon, let's get to some positives though. Let's get to some favorite scenes, which I will start out with. So folks, I want to kind of take you through I love the framing device in the movie with, at first we see Cain and Abel murdering each other. Or wait, I'm sorry, it's not Cain and Abel, it's Ed Gein and his brother. And Ed Gein murders his brother.
Maybe some Dylan foreshadow.
What?
Maybe some Dylan foreshadow.
Oh God. It's just great. Like it's timed so well. Like the music, the Danny Elfman kind of Alfred Hitchcock present score. Hitch is drinking a cup of tea, which is perfectly timed with his character. Then he starts going on a monologue of like, ever since Cain and Abel, brother has killed brother, and just draws you right in as an audience. Like we see this murder take place. We see Hitch kind of come out and break the fourth wall and really set us up for at least some of the thematic elements we should be looking for within the story, even though it's a real life story.
The macabre observation that without Ed Gein killing people and getting away with it for a while, we would not have our we would not have our little movie.
Yes, yes, and of course, maybe sewing in some of the elements of Psycho that sometimes life is scarier than fiction. So all that is sewn in really well, and then Dragon, of course, I love at the very end the stinger. Do you mind if I take the stinger?
Yeah, just don't take my text. Go on.
I won't take your line. I won't take your line, but okay. But so at the very end, after a lovely opening, after a lovely final exchange that Dragon will get into, we meet Hitch back at the same location we started the film at. Hitch is talking on about like where he's going to set his next picture because this one's going to have to top them all. And then what do we see, Dragon? We see this very dark, ominous crow land on his shoulder. Hitch is just
wherever will I find creation, inspiration.
Yeah, I just love that dry pan. Like wherever will I find inspiration? And Dragon, I gotta say, this is just me being kind of like just softening in my old age. Because when I was like a cynical like high schooler seeing that, I was like, oh, that was kind of a lame line, man. I don't know. It's kind of cheesy. Like, isn't it obvious?
It's like how the Marvel movies have broken me down. I'm getting so weepy nowadays. Like, oh god, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and now it's like exactly the same thing with your moment we'll go over soon, Dragon, is with this now I watch it and I'm like, yes, that's perfect. That's exactly how you start. That's exactly how you should end. Well done, movie. Yeah. Anyways, okay, Dragon, second favorite scene. I can kind of lump these two together, the two sequences in the shower. Now, granted, of course, not a real life event that took place. However, I feel like this scene is very much an encapsulation of Hitchcock's most intense directorial moments throughout his career, when he wants to hear the screaming on Janet Leigh get more intense, and he actually like kind of goes a little mad, and grabs the knife, grabs the prop
and airing
knife.
his frustrations out in direction.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, Dragon, because it's all psychological, and I love how the sequence itself is shot in the same sort of way that the shower sequence is shot, using the suggestive angles, and like, we know he's not stabbing her. We know he's not trying to stab her, but we also know he's very much trying to get a reaction out of her. And I mean, that kind of scary unpredictability, it's definitely the most, I would say
close to the Tippi Hedren stuff, a little close to that.
Yeah. I would say close to that kind of stuff, but also in a similar light, it's the most vulnerable that you see Hitch, because he really does kind of break down, and he sort of accepts himself for the monster that people kind of see him as in that one moment, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, of course, he's stabbing a whole bunch of people too, as we just keep transitioning all his tormentors in the shower.
Right. But I gotta say, Dragon, that all lends itself out with the, I think, absolutely, bar none, the best moment of the film is the shower scene as is presented to us on the night of the premiere of Psycho, where Hitch is wandering around the theaters. He's kind of like lurking near the theater exits. And then, Dragon, I love how this is played, man. I just love how this is played, where Hitch is, he's sitting there, he's watching the movie, we're kind of hearing the music, and then as soon as he hears the water running, he gets out of his seat, goes into the lobby, and we as an audience are like, oh, we know it's coming. We know it's coming. And then, of course, I love how there's that, there's the usher there who basically he's kind of starstruck, really. He has no idea what Hitch is doing there. And then, of course, Dragon, the moment, like, just the, the magic moment of the whole movie, I think, is when those screams start coming and Hitch starts conducting the screams.
Kind of makes you want to see the making of Jaws movie.
I mean, it's so good, don't you agree? It's so cathartic. It's like it's exactly what Hitch wanted with this movie. It's exactly what he set out to achieve. It's the exact reaction he wanted. I definitely feel like that is the most cathartic element of the movie, and even if it might, look, I have no idea if Hitch was wandering around the movie theater conducting people.
It really does sound like what something Hitchcock would do, to be honest with you.
Well, at any rate, I it plays really, really well in the movie. It acts as kind of like a, a climactic point before we get our resolution with the main characters. And with all that being said, Dragon, those are my 3 favorite moments. So why don't we
Wait a minute,
transition over?
that's 2.
No, I did.
Well, I mean, saying you kept lumping them together. I thought that was like a combo of 2. So that's all 3.
No, I did the bookends, and then I did the
Shower.
right, the shower, and then I did the other shower.
Oh, you said the showers. Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
3. That's
All
my
right.
3.
Okay, so here are my moments. Again, I guess an honorable mention would be like the theater promotion montage, which is really nice. You know, him going. Basically, we see all the letter going to the theater owners, just like saying, "Okay, make sure you don't let anyone in." Just, as it's like a wonderful sequence as Hitchcock's kind of narrating over it, and as we see him recording the lines, a really nice sequence there. Because it shows you how big. Because basically they were limited in a big way. They can only debut in like a select number of theaters. If I'm right, only 2. If I'm right. Points like very, very limited release for the time, and what they did was, they basically built it up so people were intrigued and they wanted to watch.
Right.
Desperate to see it, which again is really clever and brilliant practice. So again, here are my 3 moments. Okay, so first and foremost, before I get to my crescendo, Hitchcock telling Sherlock. The MPPC guy, Kurtwood Smith, that he respects him. I thought this was a brilliant scene. I'm still so delighted by it. Ask everyone to leave the room, and then it's just the two of them. The two of them, famously in the movie, they have not been on the same page. It's like the sense has been down. Like he basically denied him the seal. And then I love how intimidating it starts off. So yes, I need everyone to clear the room. Thank you. So, everyone's clearing the room. It's basically
right.
Denies it. After all of this, the guy's denying the seal of approval. He asks everyone to leave the room, and then basically he offers him, essentially final cut on one scene. He offers him, if you allow basically again he's threatening the shower scene. That's the thing sticking in his craw, because again there is no nudity shown. He's ensuring him, but again it's what everyone was going through in the movie. Again, it's all in your mind.
Right.
Which, there are some discrepancies with like how certain things were censored, but on the whole, like there were certain things that were censored, some things that weren't. So I mean, let's not get into the semantics. The point is pretty much on the money. So I don't know if like the deal was made behind the curtains or not. I would. Oh wait, I think it was. Anyway.
Well, I don't want to draw on the semantics a little. So if you're not sure either way, just
either way. So the point is, Hitch is he's just telling him. If you allow the shower scene as is, we will reshoot. I'm willing to reshoot the opening bedroom scene with you on set. We'll film it to your exact specifications. And again, it's like to my exact specifications. Like he'll be on set, and he's just like, "Well, of course, my dear boy." He's like, basically gives him like the best. Gives him like the best, most polite praise, and it's first of all, I just love how well acted. It's like what I truly think it is. After he says, like, of course, like basically he tells him like what you do is important to filmmakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the reason I love this scene, I think he means it. I think Hitch means that in that scene.
He had a lot of kind of he voiced a lot of activism for film preservation and also for different kind of like film techniques, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get behind something like that.
The reason it's not just for the comedy of Hitch put a fast one on. No, it's not for that. I think I truly love this scene because Hitch I think he cleared the room. Bear in mind, he just wanted to show some mutual respect. He didn't want to embarrass him in the case. But either way, I just think he just wanted the kind of, there was a vulnerability on both sides there. It was just showing him like, hey, I respect you, dude. You and I are in the business together, and my film needs this scene, so I'll do whatever you.
It's kind of like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You know what I mean?
But again, it's also kind of like a mutual sense. Like, hey, we're in this. You and I, we have our jobs. We're always kind of locking horns, and we need each other. I respect what you do, and you have to respect what I do. So look, I'm willing to compromise this. If I don't get. Despite the fact I've made fun of you here and there, I do truly respect you. And I love, of course, then Peggy's asking, like, how did you... So you invite him, and they're all prepared to shoot the scene. He says, what did you say? Why isn't he here? He says, I told him I deeply respected him. It's a brilliant little scene. Okay, second one, big climax, I guess. The ending with Alma at the premiere. Oh god, it's a beautiful scene. So basically, they're at the premiere. The film has come out, of course. Like this scene to me,
Just the way that the wordplay works here is just impeccable.
the wordplay, how it's shot, this scene does it for me on so many levels because I love just how I love that it's on the way it's staged. It's basically everyone on the side around them is like they're kind of.
It's kind of like the end of a Muppet movie or something.
Almost. It's kind of like everyone on the outside, they're taking pictures, of the cast and stars and everything. And I love that, in a way, it's like almost like our guys have the center stage here. Like everyone's kind of muted, like slightly muted in the background. Like they're going on. It's like almost like they're alone. Yet we see everyone on the sides. It's like we just hear this conversation in a sea of like praise and like, oh god, it was so good, yeah. Like, can I get your picture, Mr. Perkins? Can I get your picture? Like all that stuff going on.
Sure.
You have this lovely scene going on between the two of them. It's so well shot, and we have just this beautiful, impactful moment again with that Elfman score, just delivering that lovely kind of Hitchcock theme, that light piano music, dun, 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 dun. And it's just this. Basically mentioning the Hitchcock blonde thing. Basically, he says to her, kind of gives her the. He called her over, called Alma over, because again, she's usually nice to not being left out of the spotlight. He calls her and saying, "No, don't be in the spotlight. Come over." And she gets the pictures, and that's why she's in this scene right now. And then he says to her, "No, Hitchcock, my dear Alma, all the Hitchcock blondes. I've basically saying she's the only Hitchcock blonde. Of all the Hitchcock blondes I've had, you're the most beautiful."
Yeah, I think he says something. I'm sorry, I should look up the exact quote, but yeah, it's something to that effect, Dragon, for sure. It's just something so loving, like, of all the Hitchcock blondes, there were none who could compare to you, or something like
none
that.
Compare to your beauty, or something like that.
Yeah.
Then she says, "I've waited 30 years to hear you say that."
And then Dragon,
says, "Oh boy," he says.
Hopkins delivers this line with the timing of like a true comic master.
"That, my dear, is why they call me the master of suspense."
Oh my god, I'm like, yes, Hitch!
And then again, it just had that Elfman score like, da, 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 da. It's like such a happy, feel-good.
It's funny, Dragon. It's funny because in the theater, I really kind of groaned at that line, and now I love it. Now I just think it encapsulates everything about the man and everything about why these two and their dynamic work. And I am just an old guy who's just getting less cynical as I grow old. So.
Yeah, it's the fact that she got her do. The two of them are strong. We see them strong as a unit as they always are, and it's just like that whole. Again, you're the one for me. You're always the one for me, even though I may have other women. They're always emulating you. That's kind of what's being said in that scene. I've always been emulating you, but the only Hitchcock blonde I'll ever need in life. Such a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, definitely.
And honestly, my last moment goes by a lot quicker, but it connects to that moment so well. And it's right.
Go
basically,
ahead.
It sounds silly, but I got to tell you.
No, it's fine. I respect it for sure.
So after Tiki's scene, the one he went through about the ending, the birds reference at the end. I'm going to toddle along to my next picture. He's walking along, he's waving to Alma really nice. And we have like the classic thing every biopic ends with. We have the text, the famous text. We have text on the screen. Usually it's black with white stuff written on the screen. But the point is we have text. And like three things go by, mentioning like the second one is like Hitchcock. He never
won an Academy Award.
Yeah, basically it says like Psycho was like a huge success, like the biggest of his career. Then it goes to that's the first one. The second one is you're right. He never won an Oscar, but he got like a lifetime achievement by the AFI. The AFI gave him an award. And then the last one, so it's because it's three of those. It's 1, 2, and then the third one's my favorite. Oh boy, here's the one that gets me. And then it sounds so silly. I got so emotional over this last bit of text, and every time I watch it, it always gets me. The Marvel movies just kind of like sanding down my emotional wall. It's like,
oh god.
It's like a Captain America shaped hole in the wall.
Oh man.
It's basically I wrote it down here because I want to make sure I got it right.
Sure.
It says basically Hitchcock's what he said upon accepting the award, and then as this appears, then you hear that the same Elfman score, but instead of being kind of blaring with the orchestra, it's like on like a lone piano.
Oh god!
Which is the ultimate emotional grabber. The lone piano, as it says. Hear this word. I have. Wait, sorry, I just want to make sure I get it here. I have this one. Essentially, I have. Oh, all right, I got it. Sorry,
Yeah,
I share this award because I have my life with Alma.
yeah, and that's just like
Oh,
yeah, it's the ingredient you need
fuck
right
yeah.
on top of the cherry sundae, you know.
It's like da 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 da. It's like the ultimate happy note to go out. I'm like, I share this award as I have my life with Alma. Just the fact that again, it's like she's been she's been the ghost kind of collaborator of Hitchcock's all
Yeah.
of these years. Like, oh god, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's
Okay.
so nice.
Okay. All right, Dragon. This has been a great conversation. I can't wait to get into Bates Motel. Of course, let's wrap things up with some final thoughts, maybe even tying some stuff back up to Bates Motel. I think this was a really good watch. I got to admit, it's funny, Dragon, because I had this poster up on my wall for a long time. It's still up there, as a matter of fact, but I never really gave it a second chance. It was just it happened to be at the movie theater when they were giving it away. But now I'm glad that I have this poster because there's a lot of different things I can look at this movie and be, and really look at fondly. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I'd give it about like maybe a 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think it definitely gets sidetracked with what it wants to do in a certain respect. But having said that, I think there's enough of a good, consistent narrative to go along with it. Very compelling lead actor roles, a good supporting cast, and overall just kind of tying it back to Psycho and Bates Motel and everything like that. Like I said, this is a fascinating look at the man behind the mythology and also the man behind the mythology meeting with the myth himself, so there's all these little layers for Bates Motel and Psycho fans to look into. You'd be remiss if you haven't checked this movie out. I'd highly recommend it. And that's all I got.
I enjoy this. I find it's a really nice film. It's super rewatchable. It's what it really is. It's nice and rewatchable. It's kind of my main statement on it. I think Hopkins is perfect. It's like a good movie. It makes you want more, but still you're satisfied with it on its own. Like again, it's like you don't like a part of me. As much as I want to say, I would love to see like a series of films where Anthony Hopkins plays Alfred Hitchcock making the other Hitchcock films. I'd be down for that personally. But a part of me knows, well, let's not cheapen it. It's like
then we'd have to work in that cinematic universe we were talking about earlier with Walt Disney and
That's what I'm saying. Because believe me, a part of me is like, yeah. Because honestly, with seriously, when you bring that up, Diggy, I gotta tell you, I'm just loving mainly Johnny Lee. It's this movie is somewhat in the vein of the Johnny Lee Hancock kind of awesome biopics.
Yeah, well, I don't think the Founders...
Well. Anyway, the point is,
I don't think the Founder's much of an awesome biopic.
I would disagree with you on that.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. Well, then we can actually talk about it. But
I know. So, aside from the point is it's kind of in the vein of like those good biopics. It's like that's what he kind of wanted to attract to this film in the first place. He's like, oh yeah, the film was so good. It's like it feels like one of those. It feels like kind of a little bit like Saving Mr. Banks. It feels like these fun adventures in cinema that we weren't really privy to, and then we're getting to see unfold. And again, it's like, what other stories could we see to unfold with this Hitchcock? But at the same time, again, it's like this little slice of history I don't want to corrupt. It's kind of this. Again, it's this wonderful story we kind of see unfold like in the Hitchcock style. It's I would love more of kind of the psycho stuff, of course. But in the end, it's focusing on Hitchcock, the director, at the end of the day, and just in comparison to Bates Motel, the only two things I can really compare is that it's this film is a good romance between kind of Hitchcock and his wife in a capacity. It's kind of romanticized, definitely. It's a romanticized of a bond that's like unbreakable. That's what that ending always kind of takes you to. It's like, okay, it's an unbreakable,
Bates
loving
Motel
bond.
definitely takes a darker context to the unbreakable bond.
Again, it's like Bates Motel. I've always said is kind of is like a romantic tragedy, and that
sure.
It's something so compelling, so sweet, but they also it's like a relationship where two people are so connected to each other, and if only one thing could change, they could be together, but they can't change that. It would fundamentally destroy their relationship, and in the end, end, their relationship's doomed. So in many ways, it's like that with Hitchcock's. They're kind of predicated on that dark, tragic stuff, but at the same time, though, of course, their lives weren't tragic. Their lives were, were wonderful. They're filled with love, and much like with Hitchcock, again, Hitchcock believed in kind of making the best movie he possibly could, even if the film in the end of the day didn't turn out to be the greatest thing he worked on. He just made great directing tricks. He put his heart and soul into these films to deliver the best thing possible. And I think we've gotten that Bates Motel, the best thing possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, all stemming from Hitchcock, and we had a little glimpse of the man's life in this movie. So again, Hitchcock all the way.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We will try and get a recap of the final episode of Bates Motel as soon as we possibly can. Of course, we've also got a lot of other TV stuff coming out this week. We've got Gotham and Better Call Saul, in addition to Jacob and I finishing our Milo Murphy's Law content. Lots of stuff on the So You Want to Be an Imagineer channel, so stay tuned. In the meantime, Dragon, you know what we're going to do?
What?
We're just going to sit on this hangout and wait for Bates Motel to come on tomorrow night.
Okay.
And do you know what that would entail, Dragon?
What would that entail?
Do you know how Norman Bates would feel about that?
Yes, I do.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to sit here then